Hey Indian Creek 8th grade students, it's Professor Blazek, and I'm here today to talk to you about Stave 2 of A Christmas Carol. So let's jump right in. So some things you want to consider while reading the second stave of A Christmas Carol are the inconsistency of time in the story. We'll talk about that going forward. Time doesn't really seem to apply while Scrooge is spending his time with these spirits. You also want to look at the appearance of the first spirit to visit Scrooge, what it represents, because it is very symbolic what the ghost of Christmas past is representing. You want to look at young Scrooge's character as he grows older. So where he starts, because we see Scrooge as a young schoolboy, and then how he progresses and grows as he ages, and also how this impacts his relationships with others. So how the changes in his character also impact the way that he treats other people and the way that other people treat him. And then, of course, always any changes in the old Scrooge's character, because the entire story is about the changes that these spirits and these visions can make to this miserly, evil Ebenezer Scrooge. So, one new character that's introduced in Stave 2 is, of course, the Ghost of Christmas Past. He is the first spirit to visit Scrooge, and if you look at the picture and you look at the description in the stave, his appearance is very much almost like a candle. There's this beam of light that's coming out of its head, much like a candle would be holding its flame, above its head. It carries with it a hat that is very similar to an extinguisher that you would use to put out a candle. And this is very symbolic of the fact that this spirit is enlightening Scrooge. So he is showing him the past. He is basically shining this light on the past for Scrooge so that Scrooge can understand how he changed from a quiet but overall kind young boy into the very hardened and very cold old man that he is today. And this just reinforces the idea that in order to make a change for Scrooge to who he is today, he first must understand how he got to the point that he is. And that's what this spirit is helping him do. And because the spirit is the ghost of Christmas past, he takes Scrooge to a number of past Christmases. And as I talked about before, it shows how Scrooge is really broken down from this dedicated, hardworking young boy to this miserable old man that he has become. So it's important to look in Stave 2 at how Scrooge changes throughout the years. So we first meet Scrooge at a Christmas during his years as a schoolboy, and he is very quiet. He's spending his time inside reading while other boys are outside playing, enjoying each other's company. Scrooge is much more the study-oriented, the school-oriented boy, but we see that he does have a good relationship with his younger sister, Fan, who comes to pick him up and bring him home from school. He's very happy to see her. There's discussion about their family getting together again. There's a suggestion that his father was maybe not the nicest person to Scrooge, but when Fan comes and discusses, I'm here to bring you home, I want our family to be together, Scrooge really seems to take to this idea. So it shows that while he was kind of a loner, he was more introverted than a lot of other boys, Scrooge was still capable of having strong relationships and experiencing love when he was a boy. And sort of to go along with this, the next visions that we see are Scrooge in his years as an apprentice. So when he's first getting into the business world, he works for a man named Mr. Fezziwig, and we see a scene where the Fezziwigs are throwing their Christmas party, and Scrooge has a very good time. He enjoys himself, and after the party, he and one of his co-workers are sitting together discussing all of the good things that the night held. Scrooge really seems to think that it was worth the money that the Fezziwig spent to throw such an enjoyable party. And this again just shows that when Scrooge was a younger man, he could enjoy Christmas, he could enjoy and appreciate the idea of spending money for the enjoyment of others, which obviously really contrasts the way that he feels at the beginning of the novel when we met him. Now, the next vision that we move to is Scrooge in what is called his prime years. That's what the narrator refers to them. So probably in his late 20s, early 30s, he spent some more time in business. And we see that at this point in his life, Scrooge has clearly begun the shift towards the miserly old man that we met at the beginning of the story. We see him in a discussion with his love interest, a woman whose name is Belle, and she is talking to him and telling him that she realizes that she has really been replaced in Scrooge's mind, that he used to really feel strongly about her. They used to have a good relationship, but now she feels that his obsession with money has really taken her place in Scrooge's head. He's becoming greedy, he's becoming more cold and hardened, and for her, she has just had enough, and she is telling Scrooge that, you know what, I am not number one for you anymore. You have this new dedication to something else. I am not going to stay here for that because that's not fair to me. And she is leaving him. And then we get another shortened scene after this with Belle, where we see that she's happily married, she's got a family, and her husband comes home and tells her that he just saw Scrooge working away in his office, even though his partner Jacob Marley is on his deathbed. So this just shows that by leaving Scrooge, Belle was able to find a much better life for herself, and that once Belle was out of his life, Scrooge really had nothing left but to dedicate himself completely to his work. And we get the reinforcement of just how important his work is to him when we see that he is spending his time working, even though the only real relationship that he has, his business partner, is very near death. So just again reinforcing just how cold Scrooge has become. And we see as Scrooge takes in all of these images, all of these past scenes, we really see him start to break down as a character. He starts to soften, he becomes emotional. And this is important, again, going back to what the Spirit represents. The Spirit is enlightening Scrooge, showing all of these past memories, turning on things in Scrooge's brain that he probably hadn't even thought about in years. And because of the emotions that these images bring out, we see that Scrooge is capable of experiencing emotion and is capable of possibly regretting some of the things that he has done in his later years. So that's it for this video, the summary, the important scenes. I'm going to bring another video to you looking at important passages from Stave 2, so stay tuned for that. And until then, this has been Professor Blazek, and I will see you next time.